Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast. We've got a special guest host in the form of Stuart Woodmansey, and as always, myself and Paul, and we're all talking football. End of the season's coming, so that looks as you'd probably expect, a lot like the end of the season. Yeah. If you're checking us out on YouTube, look at you. You get to see our lovely faces. While you're there, click, like, subscribe, share, drop us a comment, try and beat the jock while you're there, all of that good stuff. If you just like listening along, that's fine, but if you could subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from, that would be amazing. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the Riverside Roundup. Right. Well, if everything's working the way it should be, which, you know, anybody's guess, we're here to listen to Paul tell us the deal about why we're here. Go on, Paul.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can probably see by the smiling faces on your televisual screen / your audio visual ears, it's. I mean, it could be any one of a number of podcasts. So, answers on a postcard if you want to send them in below. And I mean, unfortunately, the only thing I could reach that even like remotely classes as a beverage is this.
Northern boys love gravy.
Is that gravy?
Gravy. Yeah, I feel like I've rambled a little bit too long there. So, welcome along to another instalment of what potentially will be one of the last couple of episodes of the Riverside Roundup, as I imagine for the start of next season we'll probably change the name yet again on the podcast. So what I might suggest is we make it just more not team specific and more tournament specific.
You're thinking of going down the route of the Washington football team, aren't you? You're thinking of calling it the Football Podcast.
Yep.
Which,
I mean, it ticks all the boxes.
Let's face it. You know. The fact that it hasn't happened already.
So yeah, welcome along. We're going to give you another minute of football chatter, football. I was going to say banter then, but there'll be a little bit, I suppose. Probably talking about how terrible Middlesbrough are or how good Hull have been this season, and then obviously, no doubt we'll resort back to tight from next season onwards or something like that.
Correct.
No, I want it to go on record.
Off you go, Andrew.
I'm saying it now. I want it to go on record. Next season, Middlesbrough's season, they're absolutely going up. There you go. It's on record. I'm putting down 3-0 for every game.
He's manifesting this. Manifesting it. It's out there.
If you believe it, it will happen.
But you can't put 3-0 for every game.
I mean, I could.
Realistically, you could put a 3-0 home win for every game.
Well, no, because what about if I can't remember if my internet cut out. Surprise. So I don't know if he said that he's putting Middlesbrough down for a 3-0 win or Hull down for a 3-0 win. And then that made me think, well, he can't do that. Because obviously if the other one of me or you is in the room, he has to, by law, give us a goal. So
that is... My theory is flawed. I'll have to work on it in the off-season. While I'm all... Go on.
Just before you do that, there was a guy a couple of years ago when TalkSport were doing like a predictions league. One of the presenters, rather than actually sort of put effort into it and do actual predictions each week, He put every game down as a 1-0 home win for the entirety of the season to see if it would win in the prediction. I don't.
I'd be interested to see it. I'd be interested to see if it, in fact, did win in the predictions. So, we have a lovely format. I am a man that likes a format, as it's been said. And this podcast has a beautiful format. It's polished, it's refined, it's chiselled, some would say. And it goes a little something like this. We like to ease in gently by looking back over the last 7 days, which is also known as a week. See what's been going on in the football news, and a section we like to call This Week in Football. So, gentlemen, both you here, gentlemen, what's been going down in the world of football in the last week? I've been hearing something about one of my old stomping grounds and about how they absolutely love kicking off games, at start time and stuff with absolutely no hiccups whatsoever.
I mean, that was probably the Bristol game, but Man United went terribly.
Bristol boys.
Yes, unless you've been living under a rock on Sunday at around 2 p.m, I think. I'll use this term very loosely. Fans broke in to Old Trafford and decided to stage a protest on the pitch. They even some of them even got up into the stands, into some of the corporate boxes. Apparently, a flare was thrown in the direction of the Sky Sports presenters that were on air at the time. Obviously, there was another game being played, so it wasn't actually broadcast or anything like that. But yeah, they were obviously in their position for the build-up to the Man United-Liverpool game. So we're obviously out in, not the open air because there was within the stadium, but they were out in full view of the pitch. And yeah, apparently some of the fans got down the entrance tunnel where the players come out of the dressing rooms to the pitch. And then I think there was talk of some of them were going to try and hide under the seat coverings to wait until the game had started and then come out as the game had started to try and disrupt the game even more. Now, obviously, as it went on, the game didn't get played because, well, quite rightly so, they couldn't guarantee the safety of the players. And the police that obviously came in and they must have done a search of the entire stadium, or as much of the stadium as they could, to get all the fans back out again and away from the playing surface and the stands and things like that. And then obviously it just escalated from there, and apparently one of the police officers was slashed by one of the supporters.
I only saw that earlier today.
And then there was a couple of
it said that 2 police officers were injured, but one of them received a significant slash wound to the face. So it wasn't just that, like, they jabbed in the arm or anything. Like, that's vicious, man. Like, how is that proving your point?
Exactly. It's like it's that thing in it where you're protesting against, you're protesting your arguments against the wrong folk there, because obviously the police aren't there as Man United, like, paid employees. They're there as their civil duty as to protect the public and stuff like that. And obviously they're just doing their job. They've got no affiliation with Man United whatsoever. They're just there to do their job, and you're taking out a blade or whatever and whipping it across some poor bastard's face. So yeah, it annoyed me at the time because on air Sky was saying that the main thing they kept coming out and saying was it was a largely peaceful protest, which annoyed me straight away, because it can never be a peaceful protest when breaking and entering is taking place.
They were trashing the place as well. They were throwing like cameras and stuff. And the thing with the flare,
causing criminal damage.
Yeah, the flare got the most coverage because, it looks pretty to start with, but then once it settles, that's a flaming hot item, and those seats are more often than not plastic. It's a fire risk. One of those seats goes up, takes the next lot with it. Next thing you know, half the stadium's on fire. So it's.
Well, as well, if you think about it, obviously the seats in the bottom sort of section of all the seats that are in the stadium at the moment, they've all got fabric coverings over it to obviously make it look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing and to obviously stop the ball from getting in behind the seat. So it's easy to retrieve. And I'm assuming that's just made of like fabric. So that'll be flammable. That'll go up like that. So yeah, they don't seem to sort of. It was misplaced. Would be the best thing I could probably say. It was foolish. I could understand the want to protest against the owners, and they obviously wanted to make a statement where they're not willing to put up with the amount of money that they're taking out of the club anymore, but they went about it the complete wrong way to me. And yeah, not on.
I don't know if it's. I mean, this might be me speaking out of turn, but I get the feeling that the thing with Sky, particularly, and the protests for Man United, is that because they seem to obviously they've got a very close relationship with Gary Neville, and he was the voice of reason throughout all the Super League stuff and all the rest of it. Like, it seems to be like they just follow whatever he says now, and like,
yeah.
There was the stuff about, and I feel sorry for Solskjaer, and we might come back to that, but like, there was a thing about him saying about the Glazers, and I think it's Joel, the one, like the older one with the ponytail. He was basically followed almost.
I think Avram is the one with the ponytail.
The ponytail, so it was him.
I think Joel's like the main face.
He was all but followed, and they might as well have got in his passenger seat, to be honest. Just asking him questions, like proper, like. I mean, I know it's a difficult situation, and I know that essentially the journalists have to do their job, but Sky for me are very much on the almost the side of the protesters in the way that, like you said about the reference, it was largely peaceful when it wasn't. I was watching some coverage of the build up to the Chelsea Champions League game. And they had a reporter outside the Chelsea ground, and they were saying, "Oh, we're expecting a small police presence here. Nothing like would have been required at Old Trafford, because the situation at Old Trafford's very different." Like, well, it's not. It's absolutely not different to me, because they've still got a dictator owner in that actually, given the chance, if there was somebody that would take them on, Chelsea fans might. I don't know. If you listen along, leave us some comments, like get in touch. But if somebody said, right, you got somebody who's got a shred of common decency with Abramovich's money, they'd swap Abramovich out in a heartbeat. To me, yes, he brought the club success, but I mean, you wouldn't get him to like do the shopping for your nan, would you? Because he's not that kind.
No.
The Solskjaer thing, just before I feel sorry for him, because club legend, he's been put in that position now where he shouldn't be the mediator in all this. He's got enough to do trying to manage the team, but yet there's absolutely no word coming out from the owners. All the pressure is being put on by the media, and then he's the one that's having to sit there and say, well, the owners have apologised to me directly, right? Okay then, but like, he's the only one like fronting anything up at the moment, and like he's the only one with a voice of reason saying, like, even Sky included in this, he's the only one that's actually been saying, yeah, protest, that's fine, but just do it peacefully, because that's your right to do that. It's not your right to come in and smash 10 bells out of the stadium that you supposedly enjoy watching your football in. It's just nonsense.
Not great. It's not good. Like you say, I mean, obviously, like, he's borne the brunt of it from a perspective of he's looked as like, obviously, like the spokesperson as such, because no one else has come out and said anything. And he, like you say, he's in that unenviable position because no one is saying anything. People are looking to him for some sort of update, some sort of answers, and if he hasn't got an answer to give them, because why would he? Because if the owners aren't speaking to him directly and telling him what their propositions are, then his hands are tied, really, aren't they? And also, I always think it's a bit suspect when, like, you see like programs on Sky, like when a team's just been beaten like 4-0 or something. I know they've got to do a press match, they've got to do a post-match press conference with the manager and stuff like that. But when they ask him like stupid questions about like, how do you feel today? When the cat is actually just telling him and saying, well, it was shit, mate. We shipped 4 goals. That wasn't part of the plan. And I just like, it's like, surely just ask. You've got to have a bit of just like common sense. Just ask him anything that doesn't involve like the setup for the game. And so obviously the game plan hasn't gone to like what it was supposed to be. So just don't poke the bear, sort of thing. It's just baffling to me. But I suppose that's all part of like sports journalism stuff. Yeah.
Sad times at the end of the day. Any sort of not so much violence, but just wanton destruction and stuff like that. It's not getting the right point across. There are other ways to do things. Anything else happening or happened, should I say, in the last week in football?
Well, just when the Man United fans' week couldn't get any worse, Man City have made the Champions League final. Just to rub a bit of salt in that wound.
So obviously, some of the Man United fans' like complaints is that we've not been competitive for the past 7 years or whatever, and then obviously that just so happens to be at the same time where their cross city rivals are enjoying their most purple patch of all time, I suppose. But obviously that's understandable given the huge investment levels that have been thrown into the club and stuff like that. But yeah, it must be a little bit galling for them. But yeah, fair play to them. They outplayed PSG over 2 legs. And were by far the better team. So fully deserved to get to the final for me. They'll find out tonight who they will play in the final. Will either be Chelsea or Real Madrid, and they're due to kick off within the next half hour or so. So we'll see. Will it be another all English final like it was 2 years ago? We could be in a position where we're having all English finals across the 2 cup competitions again, which I'm sure UEFA are well happy about because they always love the English. So that's nice. Yeah. Other than the Champions League, it's been announced that just so I can find it again. The league had confirmed that they were going to try and accept fans back in the stadium for the last 2 games of the Premier League season.
Yep.
They've confirmed today it will just be home supporters. There won't be any away support. So I think at first it was expected that they were going to try and do it where they had both sets of supporters in to make it a little bit more like a regular game. But obviously they're still not willing to let masses of people travel, which is sensible. Obviously, if you've got Newcastle playing Brighton or whatever on the last day of the season, it's not the best idea for one of those sets of supporters to be travelling the length and breadth of the country to go to a football game for 90 minutes. So they're just saying home supporters only. I don't know if they've capped it. Up to 10,000, it says. Up to 10,000 home fans will be allowed for the final 2 rounds of the Premier League season, subject to the government going ahead with the planned easing of the coronavirus restrictions. So,
is that 10,000 all the way around though? On the basis that wasn't it something that it was like up to there was 50% capacity or 10,000, whichever was lower, or something like that.
Yeah. So I think I'm just trying to think off the top of my head what the smallest stadium. Now that obviously Bournemouth have gone down. The smallest stadium in the division is probably Burnley.
I mean, you're definitely stepping on Andy's questions, but
but yeah, I think Burnley have probably got the smallest one, and I think theirs holds about 24,000, something like that. So even with that, like 50% of the capacity is still over 10,000, so it'll stick at the 10,000 level. But obviously, the further down you go, and it'll potentially affect the National League clubs going into the end of their season, because they're at a point now where they've got 4 games left, and then obviously there'll be the playoffs. It'll be the same for Championship, League 1 and League 2 clubs that are involved in the playoffs as well. But hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll see that sort of go ahead across the board, and you'll get the 50% capacity regulations in place at most home grounds that are affected after the 17th of May. Obviously, I'm saying that from a purely selfish perspective, because I'm hoping I'll have some Hartlepool United games to go to. So,
imagine how weird that must be, though. Like, you've played your full season in front of nobody, and then the 2 games, potentially 3, that end up defining your season, and all of a sudden it's like, there's people.
Exactly.
There's people.
But in a weird way as well. Like, obviously, like for it might give the players like an extra incentive to try and get, like, I mean, not that you need any more incentive than, like, you know, a day out at Wembley and the chance to play in a higher division. But it's that thing of, if we get there, you know, we'll have the chance to win the playoffs and get up to the next division, and we might get to do it in front of supporters that we haven't done for the best part of like 18 months. So double bonus, really. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, like you say, it's all in line with the restrictions getting eased as they are set out at the moment. But anything can change in the next 2 weeks, I suppose. So watch this space.
So, anything else?
Not really.
No.
Unless Stu's got anything.
I mean, I'm sure we'll get to it, but obviously Hull were confirmed champions of League 1, but we can talk about that later, that's fine.
I've looked at the schedule, and we've got a lot to get through today, Stu. I don't think we'll have time to cover it, I'm afraid, mate. Sorry about that.
You just wait till next season.
I've even had to cross it out of the book because we just haven't got the time. Paul's on a schedule, we got to move on, Stu. So, speaking of scores, teams, ups and downs, lefts and rights. What we like to do here is we like to predict mostly Middlesbrough football, often Wycombe Wanderers football for some reason, and newly added to the book, not that new, a recurring character in the book is last week and this week's guest team, Hull City. So, first game of the week was Luton Town versus Middlesbrough. So, our predictions were literally all over the map. All over the place. We had all bases covered, I feel. Paul, what was the score in this game?
I believe it was a stonking 3-3 draw.
Some of that is right, just not all of it. So
okay, I mean that was the wishful thinking that it was a 3-3 draw. It was in fact a 1-1 draw.
Correct, Mundo.
But at one point, I did think it had the potential to be a 3-3 draw after the 2 goals were scored within the space of 2 minutes of each other.
So what that means, scores wise, Paul correctly predicted a draw, not the 3-3 goal fest that he predicted, but it does secure him a point, unlike me and Stu, because I went with a 0-1 and Stu went with a 2-1. So points on the board already. We're off to an absolute flyer. Who scored the 2 goals in this game, Paul?
The goals were scored for Luton by Glenn Ray.
Indeed.
And the Middlesbrough goal was scored by goal scorer extraordinaire Duncan Watmore.
Do you know why? Because it's probably the first week I didn't put his name down for a goal. That's why. He's like, I've got a good feeling about this game, lads. I don't think I'm getting jinxed here. Let's smash one back of the net. Yes, this is where everything falls apart because Paul predicted 5 different goal scorers and didn't get any of them right. I predicted 1 goal scorer. Didn't get it right. Stu, you also went for 3 goal scorers and didn't get any of them right. So of the possible 5, 6, 8 predicted goal scorers, bagels. So Paul gets 1 point for the game. Let's move on and see if Paul can secure a weak victory. Wycombe Wanderers took on AFC Bournemouth. And the way we like to do things here at the Riverside Roundup is look ahead to see what Middlesbrough are going to face down the line and then predict that current game. So Middlesbrough next game is against Wycombe. And they were playing AFC Bournemouth. So, can anybody, I'll open it to the floor, it doesn't have to be Paul. Can anybody tell me what the score in this game was?
It was 1-0 to Wycombe.
1-0 to Wycombe. Okay, so we're just going to run through the scores. Again, couldn't have had much more bases covered on this one. Paul, 0-2. Stu, 1-1 draw. I'll tell you what though, we did have all the bases covered, didn't we? Because Mr. Cook went with the 1-0. Ho ho ho! 2 points. If only he could get the correct goal scorer as well. Who scored that goal? Stu, Paul, anyone? I can tell. Oh, you're right. It was. That's who I wrote down. Luckily for you, Stuart, you also went there. So full marks again. I'll just point that one out again. 3 points on the board straight off. Stu gets on the board with a point. Let's talk about the Hull City game, shall we? Hull City took on Wigan Athletic. Some of us, called Paul, thought that there was going to be an absolute goal fest. Just goals all over the shop. And it was going to be Hull that were going to be delivering those goals. I'll give you a clue on this one. Paul went with a 4-0 Hull City win. Stu, what was the actual score in this game?
I mean, there was 4 goals.
There was 4 goals.
But 3 of them were scored by Hull. 1 of them for Wigan.
Oh. What that means scores-wise, though, because Paul 4-0 and myself and Stu just had a 1-0 apiece. It's points on the board. Points on the board. It's one apiece. That's all we needed for that. Stu, who scored those goals?
So for Wigan, it was doo-doo, which was the exact phrase I used when that goal went in. And the 3 Hull goals were scored by Keane Lewis Potter, the Honey Monster, George Honeyman, and Josh McGuinness.
So, here's how this shapes up. Paul, you picked 4 goal scorers. You got Potter and the Honeyman. So, that's 1, 2, 3 points for this game. I went for McGuinness. So that's 1 point for a score, 1 point for a goal scorer. Stu, I hate to say this, mate, but it was just the point for the score because you went Wilkes.
Yep.
So, as certain people would like to say, in no particular order, apart from highlighting that I won this week, Stu just came in with the 2 points. Paul screeched in sideways with 4 points. Winning this week with 5 points, it's Mr. Cook.
Well done, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. I may know absolutely nothing about football, but I can write numbers down on a piece of paper. So, what we're doing here is a little different. So, we're not predicting the future of Middlesbrough football. Not this week. However, Paul has got a little bit of something for us all. I believe that Matthew Moore sincerely wanted to be here, but it was a little too early for his blood, so he's had to cry off. But I believe he wanted to be all over our double, our second game, and
He did.
seeing as he's in the room, we've got the whole City game to talk about. But first, let's talk Middlesbrough versus Wycombe Wanderers. I've already gone in on the prediction. Stu, what are you fancying for this game, sir?
I'm going to give Borough a goal because he's in the room. So I've not used that, I don't think, in this iteration of the podcast just yet. And I'm not going to give Wycombe any. So Middlesbrough 1, Wycombe 0 is my prediction, with an overdue goal from Mr. Balassi.
See, for a second there, Stu, I thought we were going to end up on the same page again. But you went with a different goal scorer.
Well, Paul was looking like he was going to tell me something then, like he's
injured,
like broken his toe or something.
He's had a leg amputated.
I was going to say, when I heard you say the phrase "a long overdue goal," I was convinced that we were going to hear the name Johnny Houghton come out of your lips again.
I know, but you know, this is going to be.
I was going to say once bitten, twice shy, but it would appear to be something like eighth time bitten.
So you've now jinxed, because this is going to be the Riverside Roundup version of betting on the same lottery numbers every week, and now I've changed them.
Well, luckily for you, Stu, or maybe luckily for me, 1-0 to Middlesbrough with Howson to score. Yes, please.
I mean, that feels like a low blow, I'll be honest.
I should not write these predictions down beforehand. I should go last on every prediction, especially Wycombe Wanderers AC Bournemouth. Paul, what have you got for us?
So we'll come on to the reason we picked the second game in a little minute, but obviously this is the last game of the season. Mathematically, Wycombe can stay up. They just need a few things to happen. One of those things is that they need to have a win against Middlesbrough, and they need to score 13 goals.
Doable.
I think it's perfectly doable. Let's just put it this way. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a dubious second-minute red card for Middlesbrough with them losing the goalkeeper and there not being a sub-goalkeeper on the bench or something like that. As the second game involves Derby County and Sheffield Wednesday, and our manager rather famously doesn't like Sheffield Wednesday, so if he could do everything in his power to ensure that they end the day relegated from the Sky Bet Championship, I wouldn't be surprised. However, I don't envisage a 13-goal win for Wickham. Sadly, I do envisage a 3-goal win for Middlesbrough.
Perfectly acceptable. Your 3 goal scorers.
I will go with
Howson, Balassi and...
Mali.
Okay.
Cabano.
Okay.
And give us a Coburn again.
Just for the book, how are we spelling that? So
I believe it's spelled Goal.
Way.
So as mentioned, we've got a surprise second game in the book this week. Do you want to go through the?
Yeah. So obviously the permutations are that the 3 teams in the bottom 3 still can all save themselves in theory. Wickham are pretty much down because with the greatest will in the world, they aren't going to score 13 goals. So it then goes down to...
It'll be, what's this? Warnock subbed himself on for the last 30 minutes.
Oh, he's lost the ball again. Oh, he's trying to get back. Oh, he's broken his hip. Like, trying to run. Oh, no. What a disaster for the 72-year-old. It's basically what Amy refers to him very nicely as Grandpa Middlesbrough. So, which is lovely. And it's like, well, she was like, oh, he looks like he's a granddad. I was like, he is a granddad.
Yes.
He's probably a great granddad, let's be honest. So the other two teams that are in the bottom 3, along with Wickham, are Sheffield Wednesday and Rotherham. And the team just above the bottom 3 that can still be relegated if results go against them is Derby County. Now, as luck would have it, the football gods have done their little dance and they've given us one of those games where it's basically winner takes all, sort of, in that it's Derby County versus Sheffield Wednesday. Delicious, delicious. So, they are playing against each other, and Rotherham are playing away at Cardiff. We probably should have done that. We probably should have done the Cardiff Rotherham game as well, just to sort of make it a bit more interesting. But we haven't, so let's just dance past it. So obviously, this is where Matt, in his Nottingham Forest guise, would have come on and said, "Oh, I'd give my eye teeth for a Sheffield Wednesday win, thus relegating Derby." So, as it stands, if Derby win, Rotherham, Sheffield Wednesday and Wickham will be relegated. If Derby draw, Sheffield Wednesday will be relegated, Wickham will be relegated, Rotherham will be relegated unless they win. So, Derby are 2 points ahead of Rotherham, 3 points ahead of Wickham and Sheffield Wednesday. So Wednesday have to win, regardless. If they want any chance of staying up, Wednesday have to win the game. There is a scenario where Wednesday can win and still be relegated because Rotherham have a better goal difference than them and are a point ahead of them. So if Wednesday win and Rotherham win, it depends on who scores more goals in their win as to who will be relegated along with Wickham and Derby. So it's going to be... I almost prefer this to like the battle when it comes to like teams that are going against each other for promotion.
It's the old penalty shootout scenario though, where you absolutely love to see it when it's not your team.
Yeah, I must admit, like if Borough were in the same position, I'd be, for want of a better phrase, shitting it. So, yeah, I'll certainly be watching on Saturday. I'll be fully tuning into the Derby Sheffield Wednesday game and just keeping the old third eye on the other goings on, which I'm sure they'll always be constantly updating us for. And Andrew, you filth mongerer.
It's the second time I've heard the phrase "third eye" in the last few days, and I'm like, I don't think we can legally use that, can we? It's
Well, so I'm gonna go for an optimistic Sheffield Wednesday win, but I'm just going to go 1-0. So Derby 0, Sheffield Wednesday 1. So bye Derby.
okay. Goal scorer.
Just trying to think if they've got any ex-Derby players in their squad just to really ram for let's have a look. Talk amongst yourselves, obviously, just to keep the entertainment up.
So, man, well, I'll. Do you want me to do mine?
Yeah, give me yours. Yeah, give me yours.
Yeah.
So if my good friend Chris is listening to this, I will fully apologise to him as a Derby fan. But I am also going for a Sheffield Wednesday win, and I am even more optimistic than Mr. Williams. So I'm going for a Derby County 0, Sheffield Wednesday 2. On the basis of a couple of things. One, as Chris himself would probably have told me, if Derby can do anything within their power to absolutely stuff it up, they absolutely will. And I think the last few weeks have proven that in their run of results. So I'm going goal scorers. Obviously, I've got to pick Windass because why not? And the guy that turns up like a bad penny at every single club in the Football League, Mr. Jordan Rhodes.
So I won't bother reading out. I won't bother reading out any of my prediction because Stu just covered it for me, like pretty much word for word. 0-2, Rhodes and Windass. I went with the goal scorers the other way round. If that makes any difference.
Well, if he gets the first goal, then you need to take half a point, just for the.
I will go for Adam Reach to score Sheffield Wednesday's goal, please.
Bit of a reach, that one.
Oh no!
You too could have your very own Doug Reach around. So Charlton Athletic versus Hull City. As he's in the room, he's getting all the goals, but it does mean he gets to also pick last. So Paul, what have you got in this game?
Maybe let Paul go last next time.
Hull at home?
No, they're away.
Charlton need to win to get in the playoffs, don't they? They need some results to go their way as well.
Yeah, they do.
I will go with Stu's prediction of if they win the league, then I'm going to predict them to get beat next week because they'll be on the piss. So I'm going to go for Charlton to win 2-0.
Interesting. Goal scorers.
Yeah, I thought you were asking that. League One, Charlton. Oh, Chuks Anike, yes, please.
A what?
Anike.
Do you need a tissue?
He's only wearing one.
Aneke.
Okay.
and Washington.
The Washington football team. I have gone completely the other way. 0-3. You heard it. 0-3. Wilkes, McGuinness, and the honey monster himself, Honeyman. Stu.
Our telepathic scoring system was clearly off kilter this time, because I am somewhat controversially picking the exact opposite result, so a 3-0 home win. Unfortunately, this is purely based on experience, as I have been there before. Thank you very much, Walsall. I will go for Stockley. Matson, or Martson, is double A. And for no other reason other than that it almost has two beer names in it, Forster Caskey.
Lovely.
I say beer loosely in the Foster's term, obviously, but...
Well, it's no Radler, is it?
But it could be. So there we go. That's the predictions for the week sorted. Paul, are we talking money?
We will be shortly, actually, to get Stu's bet on, and then we can go about it. You both had exactly the same results for the first two games, didn't you? 1-0 and 0-2.
Indeedy doody.
And then you are the opposite for League 1. Hull and Chalmers score.
I couldn't pick anything but on the basis that they've been on the roof of the training ground multiple times, I think, in the over the last weekend, singing songs and drinking lots and lots and lots and lots by the videos that I've seen circling. So, I mean, it's great. I'm completely. They could just not even turn up for the game this weekend, and everything would still be fine. and if they didn't play, it would go down as a 3-0 home win, I do believe, as well. So.
Right, so
I'm liking you thinking.
I had Middlesbrough 3, Wickham 0 at 14-1. Derby 0, Sheffield Wednesday 1 at 15-2. Charlton 2, Hull 0 at 10-1. So I have a treble of 1,401.5 to 1.
Wow.
Andrew.
Yes, sir.
You had Middlesbrough 1-0 at 13-2. Derby 0, Sheffield Wednesday 2 at 14-1. And Charlton 0, Hull 3 at 33-1.
I know.
Giving you a treble, my friend, of 3,824 to 1.
Season tickets all round, boys.
Yes, please.
And finally,
you
had Middlesbrough 1, Wickham 0 at 13-2, as previously discussed. Derby 0, Sheffield Wednesday 2 at 14-1, as previously discussed. And Charlton 3, Hull 0 at 20-1, giving him a treble of 2,361.5 to 1.
Woo! Woo! There we go. I feel the season drawing to a close. Sad times ahead, I'm afraid. Sad times ahead. So, as I mentioned previously, we like to have a little format. Our format is fine-tuned. And this is the bit where it doesn't have to be me, it could be you, it could be Stu, it could be anybody, anyone. As it said in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, anyone could wear the mask. Anybody could attempt to beat the jock. Paul knows pretty much every single thing in history about football. To the point that Paul knows the future of football. He once had a dream about flying cars and football. So, the way we've been doing it this season is one question, one answer. If that one question gets a right answer, he manages to keep the title for another week of Jock. However, a wrong answer will deliver a crushing defeat, and he brings disgrace to his dojo. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's been building all season, and here we are. It's smallest stadium in the world question. And you would be completely wrong. I can't do it because I've given it that much build-up by now that I imagine Paul has done that much research on the smallest stadiums in the world that he's probably visited them.
I heard that he'd actually put planning permission in for a 2-seater stadium in his back garden just so he knew the answer.
I heard that as well. Easier than you'd imagine, apparently.
So, there is a YouTuber under the name of HITC7s who put out a video a certain amount of time ago that was entitled "The 7 Most Remote Football Stadiums in the World." Now, most remote doesn't necessarily mean smallest, but I wouldn't be surprised if it falls in that category. So I may have already seen the answer. But we're not doing that question.
No, we were because I absolutely forgot to get a question. So I scrambled, and came up with this little ditty. The record age for youngest head coach in the Bundesliga is 28 years and 205 days. Who was it?
Is it Julian Nagelsmann?
Alright, I will only accept that if you can tell me where and when.
Well, he's the current RB Leipzig manager. And I would imagine he got employed in maybe 2019?
That is not the answer I have here. You've got the right person. Not the answer I have here.
So he did get it right, essentially.
Yeah, he got it right.
Yeah,
he still keeps his title for another week.
That one's just because it sort of comes up all the time. Whenever RB Leipzig were on like TV and stuff, they'd always talk about the fact that he was the youngest head coach in the history of the Bundesliga and stuff like that. Was it last year that he got put in charge, or was it before 2018?
So it's
17?
not that club for a start.
Oh.
Is it It's not like Mönchengladbach or something like that.
I've got Hoffenheim. 2015-2016 season.
Been there a while.
Is the answer. But yes, you have earned the right to still be the jock of the week. So that brings us nicely to the final segment of the podcast, which is any other business.
No, other than hopefully after next week's wrap up and inevitable season review podcast. Hopefully, the next time you hear us, we'll be able to discuss football from the perspective of people actually being in a stadium to watch it rather than just watching it on TV.
Indeed.
How glorious would it be if the first game of the season was like City Borough or like Borough Forest or like...
Well, so when the fixtures come out, if it is Borough versus Hull, that's no problem. If it's Hull versus Borough, do you come in the Borough end?
I mean, it's a bit of a personal question, but if you like.
Well, I don't know. Are you still staying away from the ground personally, or?
I mean, yeah. I mean, again, we've covered this previously that we could do an entire series on it, but yeah, I'm very happy for the actual team. I'm very happy for the manager, but especially because of the position that he was put in almost 12 months ago. Everybody calling for his head, and he's kind of dug his heels in, and he's got a straight promotion back up. But in terms of the owners, yeah, you ain't getting my money, pal. So just wait.
Quite right too.
And by the way, that's the way to do it. Don't go breaking into
I
the
was
stadium.
just about to say, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do it. Just don't give them your money. Don't go and start tearing shit up. Idiots. And on that absolute perler, if there's nothing else, gentlemen, I will thank you both for coming, joining me and these lovely people as we dribble our way through the football world and score at the end. Right, thank you very much, gentlemen, and until next week for the final, I will see you then. Bye! So there you go, what do you think of that? Another one done, and another week closer to the end of the season. It's nearly here. What will we do with our time? I'm sure we'll take up something, knitting, crochet, something like that. If you're watching us on YouTube and you're one of our lovely YouTube subscribers, big high five to you, and a big thanks from us. Obviously, you could just click that button now and join the crew, so to speak. If you're listening along, perfectly fine, nothing wrong with that. But if you could also subscribe wherever you get your podcasts these days, that would be amazing. So there we go. Big thanks to Stu for joining us, and big thanks to you guys for listening or watching. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye!